All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Fintech Friday. I've got to tell you, this is like our 41st or 42nd episode, and I'm nervous. This is like going back to my first one or two where I've got some butterflies. I'm excited to have Dave Savage, founder and CEO of Mortgage Coach, join. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, it's good to be here, and I love the name Fintech Friday, and I love that you're doing this podcast, and it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, it's like I said, we recorded 40 plus of these, and it's become a labor of love. And as you know, just making sure you're setting aside the right time and to do these things. It's sometimes challenging with day jobs and life in general, but I've said this on a couple of shows. I get more out of this, I think, than anybody else. I get a chance to learn about either products, technology, or people through this process. And you're one of the gurus in this space, man. You've been kind of on the foot. You've been doing this longer than anybody in terms of getting out there and kind of building an audience and adding value beyond the unbelievable value that Mortgage Coach brings to the industry. And so for that, I just want to thank you, because you've kind of blazed the trail for guys like me that are trying to, figure out how to have an audience. So thanks for doing what you do.
Well, it's as I'm sure you've learned, I mean, it is a labor of love. And while I love to read books, usually audiobooks, and listen to podcasts, the most value I get is when I'm interviewing someone. So, and learning, and I love how you said it, products, people, and tech. So there's a lot of value to be had doing things like this.
Yeah, it's been a riot for me. I've gotten to meet some people that, over the last year now, I consider friends in business, and that's pretty cool. So let's dive in. I've got like a million different ways we can go through this here this morning, and I want to start really by, for those that don't know Dave Savage and those that don't know Mortgage Coach, which I gotta believe there's only a handful of those type of people out there. You guys are doing some awesome stuff. Maybe just share quickly kind of how you got into the industry and then how Mortgage Coach came to be.
Wow, we could probably do a podcast, and someone should do it on mortgage stories. How'd you get into the business? I think that would be a fun podcast.
Oh, there's an idea.
For any content creator out there, that's still to be done, getting people's backstory to get in the mortgage business, because I don't think people go to college to do it, and I don't think there's just a direct path into the mortgage industry. So I was working at Smart and Final to make enough money to put myself through college, and school was really tough for me. I am ADD. I mean, the world is ADD, but I am the kid that took Ritalin in 6th grade, and I really am ADD, and I'm dyslexic, and school was rough. But I actually wanted to be a developer. Like that was kind of my path at that point. And I didn't come from a family of money. So I needed to figure out how to get other people's money to do that. And one of my good friends, Jim Garton, who we worked together at Smart and Final together, and we were stocking shelves. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know. What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm going to happy hour with my girlfriend." And she worked for an escrow company, and her best friend was Dory, and she was a processor for a mortgage broker, Mel Samick. And Mel Samick drove up in a Mercedes. When you're young, like, oh, he's rich. There's the rich guy. And he paid for drinks. Whoa, what's this guy do? What's Mel do? Oh, he helps people, he loans people money to buy houses. And I'm like, oh, I need to know this dude. So I mean, I cold called Mel the next day, and I don't think I actually said I'll work for free, but I think I was putting that I'll work for free energy out. And he hired me, and I became a mortgage broker. And within 3 months, I think on my 3rd month, I made like $10,000, which was more than I made working, really hard graveyard shifts at Smart and Final. And so I became a mortgage broker. And so that was how I got in the mortgage business. Thank you, Mel Samick. That was the major gift in life, to fall into this amazing business. And then I was, searching for that magic pill, that silver bullet, to differentiate myself. I mean, I grew up in Huntington Beach, so I loved punk rock music, so I had kind of spiky hair, and I was in my 20s, and I was insecure around do business with me. I remember the first time I asked someone for their social security number. I mean, that was scary. Like, what's your social security number? Who am I to ask someone for their social security number? But anyways, to fast track the mortgage coach story was I had landed about 3 years in the business, and I had become pretty successful pretty quick because I worked really hard and people trusted me, and I, had Mel to make sure we could close loan on time. And, but I had landed on this value proposition that my advice makes a difference. And that was, I wanted to be able to say that to someone. And then I wanted that to be something tangible. And so, this is before the word Fintech existed, to the best of my knowledge.
Right.
I don't think the word SaaS had been invented. I certainly had never heard these words. I actually don't think they had been invented yet. But it was all about, could I, all on one sheet of paper, show someone mortgage options, show someone the total cost of those options over time, and then show strategies like, hey, if you took this loan and instead of that loan and you prepaid the mortgage, you could save yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars and pay off your house 10 years faster. And so that was it. I landed on that concept, that advice, and that led to the mortgage coach mission.
Which is awesome. I mean, I kind of heard bits and pieces of that story, that journey. And I always imagined a guy, an originator, kind of this mad scientist building out this presentation, right? And kind of perfecting it in his own business. And maybe a few other loan officers that are watching on the side what this guy's doing are like, hey man, I'd like to use that. And it's amazing to hear someone that was a practitioner, right? That was right in the weeds, kind of at the street level, facing off with consumers, building a tool that became your calling card. It's who you are, right? Mortgage coach. People, the name just means so much in so many different ways. When did you move from originating to kind of building a business around this, and then building, the coaching side of the business too, and getting into that kind of aspect of it?
So I'll try to tell those two stories quick. So the launch of Mortgage Coach, when I originally built Mortgage Coach, I had no concept that I'd become a full-time technology entrepreneur. It was literally to take something that I had figured out how to do with Excel spreadsheets and HP12C and I was trying to scale my mortgage company, Mortgage Store, which became Mortgage Link. I think it was Mortgage Link when I actually created Mortgage Coach. And I wanted to make it so that literally, Greg Wexler, who was my co-founder, I said, I want this to be so easy that I could hire a waiter or a waitress into the mortgage business and they could fill this thing out. They could learn it in 15 minutes and they could do it in 5 minutes or less. And they could deliver this total cost analysis thing. And Greg's like, oh, that'd be about 25 grand. I'm like, and I made really good money at that point. So that was a no brainer. Like, done, let's go. And he created it. I think he created it in Access. Yeah, Microsoft Access back in the day. And after he got done doing it, I was like, that makes my job easier, but no. That's not a lot easier to learn than a HP12C and all this. And he goes, well, it's going to be like 100 grand. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not a no-brainer. And I go, how about this? I go, I'm speaking at Sales Mastery, and I think it was like 6 months out, and telling my story. And I know other loan officers are going to want this thing. How about we do a handshake deal, and you'll get the 100 grand. Like, whether I have to pay it to you or whether I think we can sell this thing at Sales Mastery. And I had no expectations that I would, sell it all at Sales Mastery. I thought, but I just knew that over 6 months he'd get his 100 grand. And he's like, let's go. And so we created it. I told my story at Sales Mastery in 1996. around August of 1996, maybe. And as I walked off stage, about 117 loan officers. Well, I don't know. I tell the story every time different. I don't know if it was 107 or 117. We're going to go with 117 because it's a bigger number, and I'm a sales guy.
Yeah, inflation.
Yeah, and I'm a sales guy. We always tell the big number. But we sold it for $995, and we sold 117 of them. And my wife, who was a realtor at the time, was in the booth, and Mortgage Coach was born. So that was that, and it was I think it was June of 2020, June of 2000, when I really had gone through a rough spot in the mortgage business, and had lost a lot of money. And, my big company with, I think I had over 100 loan officers at one point, just wasn't as fun as Mortgage Coach. And I did an earn out with my partner, Patrick Farron, and I went full-time tech guy and left the mortgage business as an operator. And it did pretty well, from 2000 to 2007. It was, we're killing it. I mean, we loan officers loved it. People would call up and they'd say, "Hey, is this that software that Tim Brahim uses?" "Yep." "I want it." "Is this that software that Barry Habib uses?" "Yep." "I want it." And I really sold Mortgage Coach because some of the most elite, successful mortgage professionals in America used Mortgage Coach, and people signed up and killed it. And then the meltdown came along, and I learned how many people used our software and how many people didn't, because we lost 70% of our revenue, maybe more than that actually. And then coming out of the meltdown, I was really clear that no one was doing sales meetings. Leadership was scarce. And I said, "You know what? Every Tuesday, 9:00, I'm going to do the best sales meeting in the mortgage business. And I'm going to," and I had all these, because I was a top professional and I had all these elite loan officers as users. And I said, "You know what? Just every week I'm going to interview a different, I don't know what production we did back in the day, but let's just say north of 100 million by today's standards. I'm going to interview this $100 million producer at 9 a.m. Pacific, and it's going to be the best sales meeting in the mortgage business." And I'd never heard the word podcast. I don't remember when YouTube started, but I didn't use YouTube when I started this. And that was probably 2010, maybe, when I did the first Mortgage Coach interview. And here we are, 12 years later, and still going strong.
Yeah, they're amazing. It's from where I sat before coming to FinLocker at Flagstar, where I ran the TPO business. I remember being on, tuning in and checking out the show. I mean, it was like, first of all, the guests, as you said, were top producers. So from my seat at the time, it was like, I got to make sure we're talking to these guys because these are business.
Yeah, they were like leads. They were leads.
Yeah, but there's always, I'm a constant learner, and so I love learning from people that have fought it out and built businesses through tough times. And the guests that you have, the stories you guys kind of talk about just resonate and make so much sense. So let's fast forward to kind of today, where Fintech is a word, SaaS is a word, and I think now it's all about how do you scale this business that you built back in the 90s, right? How have you leveraged technology to really scale your business and deliver it kind of to the masses? So I think people will be interested in kind of the process that a tech builder goes through to get to that kind of scalability point.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, any SaaS people, listening, whether you're a new founder, well, let's just speak first to the new founder. I always say, because I get calls, and I'm sure you do too, from people that have an idea and they're starting it. And I'm like, call me when you get, well, first of all, I always take the calls and I always help them, because I started once upon a time and remember every person that helped me at different stages of my business. So, if you need some help, I'll always take a call with a with an entrepreneur and a SaaS tech founder, because, you got to give back and you got to help people. But, getting that first 100 customers is where you really figure out, hey, do I have something that scales, that enough people want? And I mean like users. I didn't mean like you got to have 100 lenders and enterprise clients. I mean, 100 loan officers that like it, use it, they're willing to pay money for it. And during that process, you figure out, one, do you have the right product? Two, do people, is it priced? And can you support it? But today I think, and really where I'm at with Mortgage Coach is we design Mortgage Coach around the consumer experience. We design Mortgage Coach around the mortgage experience of the future. And guys, it's mobile, it's tech. People, human beings all over the world, but here in America, live on these devices. Cash, COVID practically killed cash. I can't remember the last time I paid cash for something. The only time I have cash in my pocket is when I go to Vegas. Or when I, have enough to give tips at a hotel, which they got to fix that, guys. We're looking for an entrepreneur to make it so we don't have to carry cash at hotels and stuff to tip.
I actually don't. I never carry cash. And so at the hotel, I'm embarrassed by it, but I found that every, person in a hotel that you would engage with that would normally take a tip via cash, they're totally cool with getting a tip through Venmo.
Yeah, no, I do that. My wife, makes me, hey, here's some money. Make sure you tip everybody. I'm like, all right. And I still try to Venmo, but the point I'm making, it's a device world. It's a platform world. And so, today with Mortgage Coach and Sales Boomerang, we brought on a private equity partner last year, LLR Partners.
I want to go there in a minute.
Yeah. But where I was going with that is you need to build experiences around the mortgage experience, the digital mortgage experience. And then, the other thing I'm super passionate about is that people don't get loans because they want loans. People get loans because they want homes,
Right.
And this is where you and I share a lot as technology entrepreneurs is, the home, it is the biggest asset that most, 95% of consumers, it's the biggest financial planning decision they ever make. And it is where, their net worth is created. And so to me, I think as an industry, we need to do a better job of creating experiences so that one, consumers understand home ownership. They understand the path, the wealth building opportunity. And so we're bringing more families into home ownership. And then when families do have home ownership, we're helping to manage that home ownership. And managing that home ownership is both equity and debt, and I mean, at Mortgage Coach right now, we're really focused on looking at not just mortgages, but car loans, credit card loans, student loans, looking at the entire debt structure and how can we help a family optimize the combination of debt and equity to have financial freedom, to achieve their goals. So, those are some thoughts of where it's going, and that's definitely how we think. Like, how can we, with our mission, with our customers, how can we help families build wealth faster and optimize, debt and equity?
I love it. We're gonna come back to LLI in a minute because that's another great, storyline or milestone for kind of your journey, right? But I've heard you talk a lot lately about this convergence of tech and digital and relationship, right? It's not enough to have great tech, and it's certainly not enough to be the greatest loan officer that doesn't leverage any technology. It's bringing the two together. I think that you talk a lot about. That creates value for the consumer and creates a sustainable business model for the mortgage professional. Maybe talk a little bit about kind of your view on where digital and technology kind of intersects with the interpersonal play that the true professionals, local professionals have in their markets.
Gosh, we could do a whole podcast or two on that, and I would love to talk more with you about that. But I mean, first I would talk that what we teach, what we advocate, which is part of our mission, is this, be the captain of the wealth team, because it's not just mortgage, it's real estate, it's CPA, it's financial planner, it's all financial services, life insurance agents, all the local referral-based professionals that surround a consumer, that help them. And I do think we're all in it together. And I'm not saying, I don't think that, the pure digital, financial service companies, the big brands that do mortgages, I don't think they're the enemy. Of course, they're competitors. Like if you're a local referral-based professional, probably the big online tech-focused companies have lower rates, but they don't. So I think it's more important than ever that as local providers, I really passionately believe you have to be a coach and or advisor. And I personally don't know the difference. Well, I do know the difference between coach and advisor, because when I founded Mortgage Coach, I owned the domain Mortgage Planner, and I owned the name Mortgage Coach, and I picked Mortgage Coach. So I had a thesis around that. It was a really tough decision that took weeks to hey, are we going to be Mortgage Planner or are we going to be Mortgage Coach? And I think I even had loan advisor. Maybe I had loan advisor too, but I bet on Mortgage Coach. But I think, when it comes to people and relationships, I would just advocate for every mortgage executive. How do we connect, that wealth team together on behalf of the consumer to help the consumer, build wealth, achieve financial freedom with mortgage, house, and debt. So I think that's super important.
Yeah, one of the things that's been super cool to watch, kind of the evolution of your platform, is, it truly today is kind of a life, it's a platform for life, for that, to connect the originator and their customer, right?
Right.
And not like you're a one and done, get a transaction done, and then the platform goes away. I love the aspect that you bring in the rest of the debt. And it's a constant kind of analysis and optimization, as you said. What is the next best thing financially for this family as it relates to their debt and their equity and their goals going forward? So I got to imagine that as that has evolved, that probably helped you as you talk a little bit about the LLR private equity investment in the company. This is a good pivot to that, because it's a great part of the story, right? You were a garage type invention, right?
Right.
The laboratory invention.
Founder funded, I like to call it.
Founder funded, right? Maybe let's share kind of what that process looked like for you as you evaluated taking on this capital and partnering not only with LLR but with Alex and the team at Sales Boomerang, which big fan of the team and the platform, and all things combined. I think it's such a great, logical, great story. But just tell us kind of how that all came about, and as a founder, how you went through that.
Yeah, well, I've had opportunities to, everything from sell Mortgage Coach to bring in capital for, many years. And I always kind of resisted it or turned down deals because I felt that we hadn't had a full proof of concept, and that if I back in the day, pre-meltdown, Sig Anderman at Ellie Mae made a real strong push at buying Mortgage Coach, and I passed on it because I just felt we would become part of the compliance engine, and it would, and my mission was to change how people get into debt in America. Like, we're not the typical fintech company. Well, there's no doubt I manage a P&L. I care about the same KPIs is all SaaS people. But the number one KPI for Mortgage Coach, which creates the social change we're trying to make, is how many families get a total cost analysis. So that's always been our number one metric, and not only, so how many loan officers create a total cost analysis, and how many families click on that link, and that consumer. Yeah. And so I had always, I made this BHAG up, Joe Patur, and my co-founder, Greg Wexler, in our executive team, we came up with this BHAG that if we could get to 2 million families a year getting that total cost analysis, that we're making social change. And so it's kind of like, I just said, you know what, I don't want to bring in money. I don't want to corrupt the mission until we get to that 2 million. And we didn't hit the 2 million in 2019, but we were close enough that I really wanted to do a private equity deal in 2020, but COVID came along and moved the cheese. And by the way, it ended up being a great thing for Mortgage Coach because that literally accelerated the digital transition that's taking place. That 2-year COVID period, I think it accelerated things by a decade. And we had a great year. A great 2 years during COVID because of the digital transition that was taking place. But I wanted to do it in 2020. And by the time, 2021 came along and, we brought in Vaquero, our investment banker, David Groves is the man. We just felt like, we've proof of concept, what we're doing makes perfect sense. And now we got to put gas on fire. We got to go fast. There's more platforms getting into our space, whether they're direct competitors or, just doing those kinds of things. We need to have the capital and the expertise to go faster and maintain our first mover position. So, that was kind of why I did it. And that was why the timing of that. And so it's been great, and it was just, I couldn't have got luckier that our private equity company at the same time that they were doing due diligence on Mortgage Coach, they were also doing due diligence on Sales Boomerang, and they invested in both, and now Mortgage Coach and Sales Boomerang, we're together under the same ownership structure, and it couldn't be a better fit.
Yeah, I agree. There's a very few deals that you look at from kind of where from outside, and you're like, oh my God, that makes a ton of sense. And that, not knowing anything about LLR, but knowing a lot about what Mortgage Coach is and does and what Sales Boomerang does, I'm like, this makes a ton of sense. And so congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, there's two things that haven't become mainstay in the mortgage business, and I do believe that both will be, cornerstones. Like the last real acronym. When I say acronym, like there used to be no PPE, product and pricing engine, and Optimal Blue and Loan Sifter define that. There used to be no LOS. That was something that it was created in, CRM, those were all created a long time ago. And in the past 5 years, point of sale was created. Like that's a new category. And I do believe when we look at 2025 and 2027, there will be a category for data. Like right now, it's still a first mover opportunity, although what Sales Boomerang is doing and data, it's a category, and and everybody's going to have borrower intelligence to thrive, and presentation, a digital presentation. It is a category, and we just happen to be the first mover. So it couldn't have been a better fit as data, borrower intelligence data, digital presentation together. We kind of a marketing thing that Alex came up with. We call it the sweetest thing. And actually, I don't have one of
candy
my
bars.
Yeah, well, Reese's peanut butter cups, chocolate
there you go.
and peanut butter. So we're kind of having some fun to create some fun around our platforms. It's like we're chocolate and peanut butter and the sweetest thing in mortgage right now.
Right, I love it, and it is cool. You guys have fun. That's what's been from my seat watching what you guys do together. It is truly fun, and you guys obviously enjoy each other's company. I think the teams mesh well, and it's just it's super cool to see it kind of come to life.
Yeah, no, we're having a blast. We're doing good business, creating change for the industry, and absolutely having a lot of fun in the process.
So last question, this will give folks a little bit of a glimpse into Dave outside of Mortgage Coach. Let's talk about college lacrosse a little bit, right? I know you're a big fan of the Cuse and their lacrosse program, but let's talk a little bit about your son's college lacrosse career.
Yeah, no, he will. his lacrosse career has been a lot of fun, just a tremendous athlete. To me, what's always important about sports isn't the sport itself, but the metaphor in life, being a great team player, having the personal discipline to be the best you can be. And it's been a fun ride. He actually is in the portal right now, so he is not going to play for Syracuse next year.
Okay. Hey, free agent. He's out there, guys.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. Syracuse had a few rough seasons. They've had some coaching changes, and the thing I'm so proud about my son is that he dreamed about playing for Syracuse since he was in junior high, and he achieved that mission and that vision. But through his 2 years at Syracuse, he also learned that like when he went there, it was like lacrosse first, and he's always been a good student, so it wasn't like school was a distant second. But at this stage in his life, he's really school first, and yeah. So he's in the portal. So he is he's not playing for Syracuse next year, but he's doing great things, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I enjoy kind of watching your travels across the country, kind of watching college lacrosse.
Yeah, I still love college lacrosse. We watched the games this weekend. It's going to be fun. Actually, Rutgers is the one who recruited him first. He actually flipped from he committed to Rutgers, and then when Syracuse called him, he's like, like he had a Syracuse sweatshirt on. He would always wanted to play for Syracuse, and he flipped. But congratulations to Rutgers, and they're playing in the Final Four next week. So
nice.
Rutgers is killing it. It was a fun weekend of lacrosse.
Dave, this has been awesome. It's I guess I didn't need to be so nervous. This is it's like a natural conversation. So I appreciate everything you do for the industry and have done. I sincerely appreciate you coming on my little podcast and sharing some time with our audience. Any parting words for the audience?
Well, I mean, first of all, I want to thank you. I think this Fintech Fridays, I wish, and I'm sure both of us wish this podcast would have existed when we were in startup mode. I also love it for executives, to get, talk to Fintech leaders and talk to people, again, product, people, and technology. So thank you for your service and what you're doing. And then, FinLocker, I just love what you're doing. I mean, it is definitely aligns with our mission. Can't wait to get our integration together in the marketplace. So a little public pressure for everyone that is, loving FinLocker, Mortgage Coach and FinLocker are going to be integrated sooner than later. And anyways, just thanks for what you're doing. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, thank you. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next Friday. And thanks for joining us on our FinTech Friday podcast. Thanks all.
Cheers, everybody.
All right.